I shall now invite someone on stage, very familiar face at Engage and at other forums here in Kolkata, the very learned editor of the Economic and Political Weekly, Paranjoy Guha Thakurta. Let us hear it loud and clear for Paranjoy da, a great speaker, a journalist, a political commentator, author, and a documentary filmmaker. His works have appeared in print, radio, television, and documentaries. Through his career spanning more than 30 years, he has been associated with major media houses. We are terribly short of time. We did start early, but as it happens, but it's on all of us to manage this time. Honorable Minister for Information Technology, Government of West Bengal, is already with us. He's waiting for his turn to come up and participate in the valedictory session. So stay tuned in. Paranjoy da will make his brief presentation on impact of social media on Indian economy.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. It's my honor, my privilege to be here with you. And I'm going to enlarge the scope of the topic on which I'm supposed to speak about. I'm not only going to talk about the impact of the social media on the Indian economy, I'm going to talk about the impact of the social media and the internet, not just on the Indian economy, but on the Indian polity, Indian society as a whole. Because I think all of these are intimately interlinked. Tomal, before me, talked about how the whole mobile telephone revolution has taken place in this country. Who could have imagined? Who could have imagined that today in this country with 1.3 billion people, that you have about 1 billion SIM cards, SIM, subscriber identity module, that you are today in this city, and for that matter in most urban areas in this country, you have more SIMs than human beings. Who could have imagined even 15 years ago? Certainly not 20 years ago, that we'd be living in a society where there are 750 million odd handsets. That out of these 750 million odd handsets, somebody would say 200 million, some say 250 million, some people say less, but these are all smart phones. অত্যন্ত চালাক এই আপনার চলামান যে দূরভাষ যন্ত্র হাতে আছে না, অত্যন্ত চালাক, মানুষের চেয়ে বেশি চালাক মাঝে মাঝে. So I mean, these super smart gadgets which are in your hand have changed our society and human society in ways which very few of us could have imagined. So before I talk about India and the great Indian telecom revolution and the great Indian telecom robbery, let's talk a little bit about what's happening across the globe. So even as we talk about how the internet has changed society, and we can debate whether the impact of the internet has been as influential as electricity or the steam engine, let's also keep in mind that as we talk, about half of the population of this planet still hasn't used the internet. It's important. It's the way you want to look at the world and the way you want to look at India. It's very important. Why? It's often said that 1 out of 3 computer software engineers on this planet is a person of Indian origin. Certainly a person of South Asian origin. But it's also true that 1 out of 3 persons on this planet who's poor, who's hungry, who's illiterate, who's ill, is also a person of Indian origin. These are two sides of that coin. This is the digital divide, and this digital divide mimics the divides and the inequalities of this planet that we live in. Let's also appreciate that the mass media and the way human beings communicate not only with each other but with one another has changed like never before. Yeah, you can say I'm carrying in the palm of my hand not just my newspaper, my magazine, my library, my radio station, my television channel. I'm also, that gadget has enabled me to do much more, to do business, to engage in commerce and a whole lot of things. But wait, what has happened is that this has been accompanied, it has happened at a time when the world has seen a Great Recession. Just about 8 years ago, a month short of 8 years ago, we had Wall Street melting down. There was a Great Recession. We saw the world economy being adversely impacted like it hadn't in 70 years. We've now had Brexit very recently, Britain's exit from the European Union. It's interesting that when we, in our country, we are trying to implement a common goods and services tax to unify our markets so that the 29 states and the 7 union territories of the Republic of India can be one market. We saw an entity called the European Union, which was politically never united, but a currency union and an economic union perhaps disintegrating. Yeah, we have no reason to feel unhappy that Great Britain is now Little England and no longer a part of the European Union. But the impact on the world economy has been negative. Why am I mentioning all these things? That the slowdown of the world economy, the Great Recession, the loss of jobs, the widening of inequalities, the rise of right-wing politics, the hatred for the other, including the immigrant. Even as these tendencies have grown, we've seen the internet expanding like never before. I mean, there are many, many countries in the West where people are always assured of 24-hour, 24/7, always on broadband connectivity. As Tomal before me mentioned to you, we still have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go before we can, come close to that kind of a situation. I mean, there are women in villages who walk for miles to charge their mobile phones to be in touch with their children living in some other part of the country. But the reality of this country is that India has indeed become a cell phone nation. And I find it truly ironical that it is an Australian professor and an Israeli academic, Asad Doron and Robin Jeffrey, who should have written the first book on the subject. And I'll strongly urge you to read it. It's called Cell Phone Nation. It's about India. So at one level, that gadget in your hand has empowered you in ways that you could never have imagined. Enabled you to take pictures, shoot videos. Every citizen can become a journalist, can become a communicator. It's a separate matter that every journalist or every citizen, they don't always merge into the same personality. In other words, not every citizen is able to speak as well or communicate as well or take pictures well or tell a story well as a professional writer, a professional singer, a professional journalist. But he or she today has the means in the palm of her hands. But understand what has also happened. You want everything free, right? Everything you read should be free. All the pictures you watch should be free. All the videos you watch should be free. You think since you're paying your internet service provider a certain amount of money, you don't need to pay for anything else. So who pays the writer? Who pays the photographer? Who pays the videographer? Who pays the singer? Who pays the dancer? Who pays the composer? Who has the copyright? What do intellectual property rights mean in today's day and age? And this is the real challenge that I'm talking about. And remember, there is the dark side. There's a very, very dark side, which we prefer sometimes to ignore. Just as we like to believe in the India which has 1 out of 3 computer software engineers in the planet, and we want to ignore the fact that this same India has 1 out of 3 poor persons on the planet, so we also tend to forget that the biggest business on the internet remains pornography. we tend to ignore that the internet has facilitated certain forms of crime, including the flows of illicit financial flows across the globe like never before. The new kinds of crime, the new attempts, whether it be transferring illicit finance, whether it be the proceeds of crime, all of these have become that much more easier. The Panama Papers have told you how the rich and the influential and the powerful have stashed away their money. But what they don't tell you is how this has been facilitated greatly by the use of the social media. Today, whether you be a currency smuggler, or you be a person trafficking, or you are encouraging child pornography, or you are into prostitution, WhatsApp is at your service. In any 24-hour cycle, 1 billion messages are being exchanged. The whole revenue models of not just traditional media organizations which have depended on advertisers and advertising to subsidize, say, the newspaper that you read or the television channel you view. I mean, you can get to buy a newspaper for 2 rupees or 3 rupees or 4 rupees because 90% or 95% of the advertising income of that television company, the newspaper company is coming from advertisers. You are watching a television channel free after you paid your cable guy or your direct-to-home operator. But if everybody wants everything free, then you have a problem. Because with the internet has come a lot of trash. The credibility of the content, the authenticity of that content, the factual accuracy of that content is being questioned. The difference between fact and opinion, between rumor, gossip, and truth, that's a loaded word. All of us search for it all our lives. What is truth? What is balance? What is fairness? What is objectivity? This is what the internet has done, because today the internet has not just invaded your privacy. The internet is also gives anonymity to people. There are large numbers of people who are paid to make your life miserable. Recently, we had none other than the Union Defense Minister Manohar Parrikar, while he was releasing a book in Pune. He actually, without naming Amir Khan and naming Snapdeal, actually let the cat out of the bag. He said what we all knew, that there were people who trolled that after Amir Khan made that statement that his wife was apprehensive whether their child should continue to live in India, there was a huge amount of pressure on Snapdeal not to renew the endorsement contract. We are seeing different forms of bullying on the electronic media. You call it cyberbullying. The same people who are otherwise meek and submissive in real life, they become vicious on the net. They become abusive on the net. Why? They know their identity is protected. Their targets are real people. As Sanjeev Srivastav, professor, he pointed out, the targets are people with real Twitter handles. They are people with real email IDs. But those who attack them are sheltered. They become vicious and verbally violent because they know their identities are not being disclosed. So in a sense, it goes beyond the issue of privacy. Yes, your privacy is being invaded. Yes, everything can be recorded for all time to come by anybody, somebody sitting somewhere far away. We know after Edward Snowden's disclosures, we know after Julian Assange what has been said, that actually, what is our notion of privacy? It's going beyond somebody getting into a bathroom and recording you secretly while you have a bath. No. Is it that every telephone call you make, every email you send, is being recorded by somebody or the other in some part of the world? Answer, yes. Earlier, the surveillance was targeted. Now it's mass surveillance. Using drones, using modern technology, it is possible today to theoretically preserve every single moment online of every single human being on the planet in some computer somewhere. That's what technology has done to you. Let's take a step back and look back at what happened in India not very long ago. Can you imagine that as recently as 2004, 12 years ago, there were more television sets in India with cable and satellite connections than the number of telephone lines. Only 12 years ago. And today, where are we? Today, we live in a different age. It's as if suddenly an era has passed and we didn't even know it happened. But behind that great Indian telecom revolution also lay a big scandal. The great Indian telecom robbery. The manner in which spectrum, electromagnetic spectrum, thin air, airwaves were allotted, priced, was absolutely scandalous. I didn't say this. The Controller and Auditor General has said it. The Supreme Court, which cancelled 200 plus licenses, 122 licenses in February 2012, they said, can you imagine, here you are allotting a natural resource. That air belongs to all of you. It belongs to the people of India. It doesn't belong to the government of India. The Supreme Court has been very clear in the famous Cricket Association of Bengal versus the Union of India speech that these airwaves are like natural resources. They belong to the people of this country. They don't belong to the government. But what happens when the government fails to be a true custodian, a trustee of these resources? And what happens when these natural resources are misallocated and mispriced? You have scandals. First come, first served. Can you imagine a finite, scarce, natural resource being doled out in the way cinema tickets are being sold? And you're standing in queue and you think it's your turn. You've reached the box office and you're going to see Shah Rukh Khan and Piggy Chops, first day, first show. And suddenly somebody from behind you pulls you out of the queue and said, no, আপনার পেছনে যে গুন্ডাটা আছে ও বলল যে আমি আগে টিকিটটা কাটবো. That was what happened. The rules of the game were changed. The cutoff date was changed. And after the scandal, after that, Mr. Raja spent some time behind bars. Mr. Karunanidhi's daughter also spent some time behind bars. Some top executives had to go behind bars. But wait, but that scandal was an incredible scandal. It's not I. It's the Controller and Auditor General of India which says that it's 1,72,000 crores. $30 billion is not just the biggest scam in India, it's one of the biggest scandals in the world. That's the other side of that story, the ugly underbelly. We've seen more such scams, and we might see some more. A company is going to roll out fourth generation services for you. How did it get its license? On the basis of a forged bank guarantee, it has been alleged. Not I. Official authorities are saying so. Now, in this kind of a scenario, I want to widen the scope of this conversation that we've had. You can't do without that social media. I accept it. Across the world and also in India, it's playing a more and more important part in our economy, in our political life, in our society. Yes, today, just as some days back, the parents has to tell their children, you can't watch television beyond this time. Now you're saying you can't be on your tablet or your laptop beyond this period of time. The convergence of technology has changed things. The notion of prime time is no longer there. And people have arrogated to themselves the people who act as your spokesperson. My dear friend Arnab Goswami, you know him very well. Less than 0.1% of the population of India watches English television news. Do you believe him when he says the nation wants to know? Every evening the nation wants to know. What are we seeing? We are seeing different forms of cyberbullying. And I'm naming names, and I'm naming them because it's important to understand. There are different kinds of bullying that's happening. Different kinds of lynch. It's a lynch mob mentality that is happening. In the medieval days, they used to burn women who they thought they were witches. In today's generation, you don't agree with me? You are an anti-national element. Tum deshadrohi ho. This is the mentality that we see in different parts, different sections of India. And this is what the social media is a very, very integral part of it. We cannot ignore the fact that this has become part of our lives. What is it doing to our families? I ask yourself that question. I'm not saying you can do without it. We saw how in the run-up to the 2014 elections, the Bharatiya Janata Party, led by Narendra Modi, who was not then the Prime Minister of India, how they used the social media. You've seen other political parties like the Aam Aadmi Party who are using the social media because they are reaching out to large numbers of people, especially young people. But I ask you, what does this mean for freedom of expression? What is freedom of expression? Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution of India. And we also have Article 19(2), which says you must have reasonable restrictions on the right to free expression. I can't say something which will incite a riot, which will get Hindus and Muslims to start killing each other. Can I say something? No, I can't. But wait, who decides what is a reasonable restriction? Is it my local gangster? Is it my policeman? Or is it the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India? These are big issues. The Supreme Court again and again, some of us said that defamation, manhani, should not be a criminal offense. It should be a civil offense. The Supreme Court has overruled us. Very interestingly, the three petitioners included a very, very unlikely threesome. There was Rahul Gandhi, there was Arvind Kejriwal, and there was Subramaniam Swamy. All three of them were on one side. Never before have three of them ever been on one side except on this occasion. But the Supreme Court, the judge of the Supreme Court, Deepak Mishra, said, no, the right to a person's reputation is as important as the right to free expression. The world over, our notions of privacy, of defamation, or what is the right to free expression? Does anonymity give me the right to abuse you? These are questions that we have to engage with. Like it or not like it. Keep in mind that in more ways than one, there is not just this brave new world of the digital media. This digital media also, there is a digital divide. And this digital divide sometimes replicates the inequalities and the imbalances in our society. I'll just take 2 more minutes. Facebook. More people use Facebook on any given day than the population of the People's Republic of China. But they want to track everything that you do. They wanted to give you a service free. They called it free basics. The government of India, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India said no. Did you ever wonder why they were spending such a lot of money putting full-page advertisements in newspapers, putting hoardings all over to give you something which was supposed to be free? And the government said no. Amazon, Google, Apple, these are the biggest corporations on the planet. These are the biggest multinational corporations. It's no longer Walmart. It's no longer General Motors. It's no longer Standard Oil. These corporations are bigger than nation states. They are the new monopolists. They not only control the root servers, they control access to the undersea cables through which you get connectivity. I merely conclude by telling you, we are all happy, we are all privileged that we live in this age of the internet. We live in an age of an information overload. But remember that internet, the digital media, the social media is like a scalpel. It's like a very, very sharp knife. In the hands of a skilled surgeon, it can remove a diseased part of your body make you healthy again. But that same sharp knife, that same scalpel can be used to maim and to murder. Thank you very much for listening to me.
As usual, Paranjoy Guha Thakurta at his best. Thank you, Paranjoy Da, for bearing with us, staying back for so long, and enthralling us with your beautiful presentation. May we request Tulsi Gurung, are you here? Would you kindly come up on stage? And we would like to say thank you to Paranjoy Guha Thakurta. Can you come up, please, with the mementos? Paranjoy Guha Thakurta, editor of the Economic and Political Weekly at Engage 2016. Paranjoy Guha Thakurta, thank you very much for this presentation.